Room. All right. Thank you all. Sorry for taking a couple extra minutes to get going. I want to make sure we got everyone here. But thank you all very, very much. I know it's Friday morning, last day, long days, long nights, but thank you for being here. This will be very, very much worth it. You'll be very glad that you're here. I'm Kaveh Vasali. I look after a couple of our industry solutions groups at Salesforce.com, public sector and professional services industry, which is why we're here today. So first of all, I want to thank you for, this was our first year having a dedicated professional services industry track. This is one of those sessions. We have another session following this in the same track again that I want to try to urge you to stay on for. It's called Small Firms, Big Clients. And it's basically a panel discussion of how some small firms have used Salesforce as a competitive advantage to win big global projects against much, much larger competitors. I'm sure Lucy will be talking a little bit about that here too. With that, and also in the next session, we are going to give away an iPod Touch. So if you hang around, you might have a shot for some entertainment on the flight home. With that, let me introduce to you today's speaker. This is Lucy Mills. Lucy is the Business Excellence Manager at Nimbus Partners. Lucy's been at Nimbus for about 4 years, coming on 4 years, 3 of those using Salesforce and as the Salesforce administrator. As you will hear and see, though, Lucy is not a techie, not a developer, not have a technical background, and you'll see the unbelievable stuff that she's done with that background. So I want to highlight that because this session really is about how easy it is not only to use Salesforce, but to build on the Force.com platform. Nimbus Partners is a software and services company. They have about 35% of your revenue comes from the services side. They have about 35 services professionals in the home office. And then you also franchise out operations across the globe. And some of those organizations in South Africa, China, Brazil, Australia are as large, it seems, as the home office. So lots of operations using Salesforce, and lots of consultants. Before I hand it over to Lucy, I just want, with a show of hands, to see if I can get a sense of who's in the room. So how many of you here in the room are current users of Salesforce, customers that are using Salesforce? Would you raise your hands for me, please? And how many of you administer your Salesforce application, are admins? And how many of you have ever done any custom development, built any custom objects, done any? Okay, so narrowing down with each step just a little bit. How many of you consider the companies that you work for as a services company as a whole? Is your company a consulting firm, a staffing firm, basically someone who offers a service as opposed to a skewed product? Okay. And then among the others, you have services components to your business, or no? Can I get a hand raised for those who have services components? Okay. I think either way, what you're going to see here is really about building on the Force.com platform, and it will apply regardless, but it'll give us a better sense of maybe some of the questions. A couple of things. Do not, this is a small room. Feel free, please, to ask questions as they come up. We want to make this a little bit more of a dialogue, if possible. And also, if you have any specific problems that you came to Dreamforce, projects that you have or problems you're trying to get solved, if you don't hear an answer to it during Lucy's presentation, make sure to ask afterwards. We'll have time for a Q&A session. Lucy will also give a demo, so you'll see some of the applications that she's built. With that, I think there was nothing else. Let me just introduce Lucy. Thank you.
Hi, thanks for that. I'm not an IT professional, but I do get told by my colleagues that I'm a bit of a geek. I do play with Salesforce quite a lot, and I have built out the application, which is what I'm going to talk to you about in this presentation. Before I do that, I thought I might just have a quick discussion with you about the Chatter thing. Who's excited about Chatter? Who can see that working for them? Has anyone thought about, yeah. Because for me, operationally, you know, I'm all about business controls and boring stuff, bureaucracy and red tape. And for me, Chatter doesn't really do anything. It doesn't excite me in my role. But for my consultants and for my sales professionals, how brilliant is it going to be? You build a really quick project app. It's not about managing the end-to-end project with the customer, but it's about capturing, you know, when does the project start, who's the project lead, something really simple. And then add the Chatter link on. So, you know, if your PO is starting to run out, then you could chat to your professional services team, let them know, and they could have like a forum going around that project. So quick, I mean, you could roll that out, what, I don't know, an hour to do something like that? brilliant. So already I'm excited about that for probably the hardest adopters, probably the guys that really struggle to understand where Salesforce adds value to them. Because services, it's like, why do I need to do something in Salesforce? It's nothing to do with me. But if you start to give them things like Chatter, they're going to start to get involved in the product and get involved in Salesforce really quickly. So I'm really excited about that. And when's that being released, the Chatter thing? I've heard rumours of like summer, maybe. Ambiguous as ever, old Salesforce. No, that's fine. Okay, so I'm going to first of all take you to the Safe Harbour statement. I think you all know it off by heart by now, but you can find it online if you need to go through it in more detail. So I'm Business Excellence Manager for Nimbus. Excuse me. We're a software house. We produce a business process management software tool. And as said earlier, I've been working for Nimbus for about 4 years. I'm responsible for Salesforce. I'm the only person managing Salesforce. I'm the only admin on Salesforce. So this is my chance to show off a little bit when I tell you what I've built earlier. Just bear in mind I am the only person. It is only me, the geek, doing it all. I'm also responsible for our business processes. So we have a quality management system that defines our operational processes end to end, and I'm responsible for that. And we actually use our own product to do that, Control. And I'm also responsible for our audits and quality assurance, so any quality stuff within the organisation, I'm responsible for making sure that works and happens. So our in-flight itinerary, I've put this theme around flying. We're all about clouds, and our company just happens to be called Nimbus. We didn't change the name specifically for Dreamforce. That is the real name of our organisation. Statistically, it's actually more dangerous to walk the streets of San Francisco than it is to fly to San Francisco. So I thought it's quite a good theme, because I'm going to tell you why I think it's safer to use Salesforce to build your applications than any other on-premise software. So I'm going to show you I'm going to show you our takeoff. So where did we start and where are we today? I'm going to tell you a bit about what we've done, what we've built out. I'm going to tell you what methodology I follow to make sure that I have a successful rollout every time, whether it's a small object that I've built and delivered or it's something big like our expenses, and then what benefits we've had. I have added a little bit of specific stuff around professional services as well, because this is a track for pro services, so I've put a bit more information in there about that as well. So as I said before, we're, if you can't tell from my accent, I'm a Brit. I'm based in Hampshire. And we established the organisation in '97, and it's a private-owned company. The founder and CEO still works with us very closely. Some of our organisations, we have over 700, some that you've heard of, I'm sure, on that list, but also Dell, who everyone's heard of from Dreamforce, and Avaya, a very big customer of ours. I think Avaya's got about 10,000 licenses with our product. So taking off. Where did we start? 2003, we implemented Salesforce. It was before my time, but I'm told the reason we went with Salesforce was the ability to look at accounts and attach contacts and cases. So the CRM, the ability to have the transparency. We have a lot of cases around our product, a lot of support, and they liked Salesforce because it did all of that for them. It wasn't necessarily that it was in the cloud. I think that had benefits, but that wasn't why we bought into it to begin with. But it's very much why we continue to use it today. In 2005, when I joined, I had a little look at the system, and it was basically, it had ended up being a very big yellow pages of who's who, and it was really a big question mark, who's who. So we did a lot of cleaning to baseline the system to then be able to build on top of it. And that was quite brutal. I think I deleted about 3,000 leads, backed up, of course. I'm not IT, but I do know to back up. So 3,000 leads went out the system, 1,500 accounts, and we just got back to actually who are our customers and what information is important to us, and if we don't need it, let's just get rid of it and start again. So 2006, we started using Force.com, and that was really about the time when the automation product came out in Salesforce, and we had, it's such a shame, but we'd literally just purchased an outside automation product that was, I think, a Microsoft partner. And we had to have like a week's worth of training on how to use this thing. And we built two workflows outside of all of our business systems. And as soon as the Salesforce thing came on, both of them broke, by the way, and I couldn't be bothered to go and fix them because it was too complicated. So as soon as Salesforce brought out automation, I think I built 10 in an hour, and they were all running and all working. So we got rid of and dumped our external system, which was pretty awesome. So today, 2009, we've got 75 custom objects, over 100 workflows, averaging 3,000 emails per month. What that means is Salesforce is sending out 3,000 emails, so either notifications or triggers to do something from our system. And actually, I was a bit shocked when I saw that number because I didn't realize there was so much traffic coming out of Salesforce. But that's pretty cool because that drives our business. All those emails, notifications, telling people things are happening, triggers at the end, making people go and do something, look at something. So that's pretty cool. We have about 20 S controls, 5 Apex triggers, and it's worth just saying the Apex triggers that we have are not in order to build out the custom objects we've built. They're just limitations that we have at the moment with roll-ups and that kind of thing. So we haven't gone to Apex to deliver any of the objects. We've actually used it standard as much as possible until we get to a point where actually we really can't compromise. We need to build a trigger. And then 7 approval processes, which doesn't seem like very many for 75 custom objects, but one of our approval processes has about 20 steps, and then within that it has about another 20 steps. So they're pretty big and complex. So what have we done, and what are we doing, and what do we use, and how do we use it? And to start with, the Salesforce CRM, we pretty much use all of the CRM applications. The self-service we use, I don't know, who here uses self-service? Wow, not many people. Does anyone have customer portals? Yeah? Okay. So self-service is a sort of a smaller version of the customer portal, and it allows you to publish solutions out to customers, and it's free. So your customers can log cases. And we actually relaunched the self-service about 2 years ago because we realized we could be cutting down our call rates and we could be saving overhead on our support desk. So we went back to our customers, told them about self-service, and we increased the usage by 300%, and we decreased our call rates by about 30%, which is a 30% saving. So they can be applied to other things within the service desk, and it meant we didn't have to increase headcount in the economic climate. Was so important. So if you're not using self-service, just go and work out how to do it. It's not hard, and you can just switch it on like that for your customers. It's really cool. So that's the Salesforce CRM side that we use. And I'm going to talk to you a bit about custom objects that we've built. So I love how I say we. It's not we, it's just me. So HR was the first app that we went with. The reason for that was strategic. We wanted everyone to have a Salesforce license. Because it's on the platform, they don't all need to have the full license. They can have the smaller license type, so it's not as expensive as you might think. And we wanted everyone to see Salesforce, understand how to use it, and just get familiar with it from a day-to-day basis. And that's what the HR app did. It meant that all of their expenses, training, reviews, objectives, timesheets, holiday, vacations, all had to go through their HR record. So immediately, they all understood how to use Salesforce, and if they didn't, they very much quickly had to, get on board with it. I'm going to do a bit of a demo around the HR app later, so we'll go into a bit more detail there. So before we built any of these objects, the first thing I did was map the processes, sat down with the stakeholders, understood what works for them, what's not working for them. And those processes now, if we want to manage any change, we go back to the process first before we deliver any change, which is really important. And you're going to hear me repeat that quite a lot as I go through this presentation. Business excellence, my area, it was quite nice. I got to build myself some applications to manage my area. Anyone who is in quality assurance, quality control, ISO type stuff, you have to have your processes defined. But one thing you learn really quick is actually I want to break my processes. So we have a process for breaking our processes. And that's captured in Salesforce. So it means the COO knows when we're going to break our process. And it means if I'm audited, I'm not going to get beaten around the head for not doing what we say we do because I've actually had it signed off and made sure it's all accountable. So other things, projects, it's not customer projects, it's actually change management projects. So all of our internal change is all logged and recorded in Salesforce. And we've got some pretty neat indicators to show whether there's going to be a problem with the project, if there's too many tasks outstanding, if we've got lots of issues, that kind of thing. So the COO can very quickly see where we've got issues, maybe shut projects down. That's a pretty neat application. Surveys is actually an app exchange, but we roll out surveys internally, externally through Salesforce, so it links to the contact, which is really neat. Audit plans, I have every year I sit down and plan my audits for the year. Really boring, I tell you, but someone's got to do it, and that's me. But 2009, we've got about 30 audits. Customers come and audit us, or where I've gone to audit suppliers around validation, or maybe I'm auditing a department if they've got a new change happened to make sure they've embraced it and try and deliver some improvements for them. And that's all captured in Salesforce. So the scope of the project is in there, the checklist is in there, and then the results are recorded. Any non-conformances are linked back to the HR record, so employees can see where they've got tasks outstanding for non-conformances against audit. And it also means where the line managers aren't necessarily involved in the audit, they can actually see where their employees aren't performing against our audit criteria. So the line manager can see all the non-conformances the employees had within that year, which is really neat. And then feedback. We record positive feedback, negative feedback, and also information security breach. We're actually in the cloud ourselves, so information security is really important. So we log it in Salesforce, we investigate it, and make sure we capture all the data so there's complete transparency. So before we built these applications, I sat down with the stakeholders, which was mostly myself, and I mapped my processes, understood how I want to deliver this and make sure it works. And then if I want to do any change, I go back to my process first before I deliver any change to the application. Oh, I think I did that last time, actually, so I'll have to talk to you about it. It's all gone. Services area, specifically. Nope, can't remember. I'm going to have to see if I can go back. Okay, there we go. Timesheets, jobs, free of charge requests, account planning. Free of charge requests is quite an interesting one. How many of you give away free stuff with your company? And how many of you wish we didn't, but you can't help it? So actually, we wanted to track how much free stuff we're giving away. And we've actually, which I'm going to talk to you about in a bit more detail, we've built jobs, so like P&L, so you can assign costs, whether it's plus cost, negative cost, and free of charge requests have to go through the account planning, so you have to have an account plan. The account manager has to own an account plan, and they can request free software and they can request free services. But it means we've got it managed. It means the COO knows how much we're spending. It means that the employee could have a labour overhead cost against them, so we could start to do some calculations to see how much it's costing us in real money that we could be delivering if we didn't give so much away for free. So that's a really cool little piece of application we've built. What was the other thing on there? Timesheets, something else that we've done, which I'm going to demo to you later as well. Does anyone here have timesheets in Salesforce? Is anyone doing that already? You are doing that already? No? You're looking at doing it. Cool. IT. So everyone has an IT department, and we do need them, even though we're quite proficient in the use of Salesforce. And our IT department are really awesome around managing our infrastructure. But it's quite amusing because I sat down with them and mapped their processes, and then I built their system for them, which is pretty funny. But they love it. And they basically have a CMDB. We follow the ITIL best practice. And they have an asset register where we have our physical assets and virtual assets, so software assets. We link our assets back to our employees, so employees can see what software they have applied to them. If they have a mobile phone, they can see what version it is. And so everything's sort of connected. If there's any change needed on an asset, it's logged against the asset. So if we did an upgrade on the server environment or something along those lines and it went wrong, it's all logged, so we can go back very quickly and go, okay, why did this go wrong? Okay, we upgraded to this version, it's not compatible with this other piece of software, or something like that. So it's all completely considered and it's all transparent, which is really neat. And IT projects are also managed, so similar to change management projects, just a different record type, and they log all their IT projects in the same way that I do my change management projects. So as I said, I sat down with them and I went through their processes, understood what they needed before I built the application. Yeah. It's not ITIL compliant, but it follows the methodology. So we use the same, make sure that you use the same terminology with them so that they understand it, because they're very much ITIL focused. So yeah, but it's not compliant. But I think you could quite easily build something that was compliant, especially if you have the processes as well. And I'll show you how we integrate our processes with Salesforce. It's quite neat. They're actually in the application. Our processes are actually in Salesforce. It's quite cool. I don't know, half a day. When if I was, I mean, it was probably over 2 days, but I was messing around a little bit. Don't tell my boss, you know, just generally chatting to people at lunchtime, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, probably about half a day in real build time. So finance expenses we deliver through Salesforce, and purchase orders also we do in Salesforce. And again, mapped processes, any change that we want to make, we look at the process first and then deliver the change to the application. So this is not all of our suite of applications, but these are the ones probably most specific to this track session. And what does that actually mean? Well, for me, it means that I have one system, which is really important. It means that we have, oh, look at that, it doesn't even go in. Oh, that's funny. It means we have one system. It means that I don't have to mess around with lots of different applications. And it means we have transparency. We have a network of information and data that's being shared across all of our departments, so managers can make decisions better, quicker, and more considered to other departments. And it means we don't have duplication of data as well, which my pet hate is duplication of data. And I just like to go around and stamp out duplication by using Salesforce to just bring everything together. Applications at the speed of your imagination. That sounds nice, and mostly it's very true. I'll give you an example. The COO comes to me and says, I'd like to have an expense system. I want transparency. I want to reduce our overheads and expenses. We're spending way too much money. Keep it really simple because the consultants have got to use it, and salespeople. But build it in Salesforce and put an approval on there for me. And I was like, okay, yeah, that sounds fine. Shouldn't be too hard. So I sit down in a workshop and I get the finance administrator, I get a couple of consultants, a couple of salespeople, the people who are going to be using the system, and the COO in the room, and we start mapping the process. And I don't want to deliver something for the finance administrator that means she has to then go away and manipulate it for a week afterwards. I want something that does everything for her, and she just spits out a report and uploads it into our finance system. But it very quickly became apparent from mapping the end-to-end process when we sat down that actually it's not just let's create a line item and enter the information. There's now 25 different record types on expenses, and each different record type's got different tax implication. And depending on where you're claiming your money from, you've got different tax implications. And if it was flights, Adrian wanted, this is my boss, wanted to have a separate approval on flights before they book the flight. So there were so many things to consider, and if we hadn't sat down and gone through that mapping stage, we wouldn't have extracted that. I could have gone away and built the system, and then I've rolled it out, and actually, no, this is not what we want, this doesn't deliver, and made life even harder for the finance administrator. So yes, applications at the speed of your imagination, I can pretty much build them as someone's telling me what they want, but actually you need to sit down and understand end to end exactly what you're trying to deliver. So scope, deliver, adopt, that's pretty much the methodology that I follow. What does scope mean? Well, that's the process side. That's scope out your project. That's understand what your end users are expecting. It's understand what starts this process and what's going to end this process. And I'll show you an example. This is a screenshot of a process. And the reason I chose this one is for activity box 1, 4, and 6. So a process starts. This is actually an embedded drill down, so it's quite a low-level detail. But you've got an input there for the process, and activity box number 1, add new approval to homepage and send email to HR coordinator. And the resource that does that is Salesforce. So the processes show where Salesforce is performing activities. And I do that for a number of reasons. For myself, I do it so I can see where Salesforce is supporting our process. I do it to fend off competitors of Salesforce so that I can say, look, this is how much we use the system. We're not interested, Microsoft, thank you very much. And I also use it for change management. So if the owner of this process, Nikki, wanted to go away and change these processes, I don't want to have to get involved in low-level change. She should be able to manage that herself. But how is she going to let me know that something's changed, that she wants something else to happen with Salesforce? And this is how we do it. So when this process is updated, I'm actually on the approval for this process. So I approve it after I've performed the changes in Salesforce, and then it's promoted so that end users then have access to the new process and the new functionality. So we use it for our change management as well. Sorry, I'm just going to skip back. So Deliver, that's the application building, that's Salesforce. And I've given out a tip sheet, which really is just little things to think about when you're building out a system in Salesforce. But delivering the application is not just about fields, it's about thinking about your business controls. So if you're not familiar with business controls, I understand in our business we have two types of controls, either a manual control where somebody is preventing something from moving forwards by checking it, like we stamp our purchase orders to say, yes, this matches the opportunity. That's a manual control. Or you've got system controls, system business controls, and we use Salesforce to deliver validation rules. So it stops the end users from putting the wrong information in, so they can't move on to the next step unless they get it right. So an example of that, in our opportunities, if you want to move on to a certain stage, I think it's best case. If you want to move to best case, you can't move the opportunity up to get it into your forecast unless you've got product. So there's a validation rule that says, no, sorry, you can't do this unless you put some product in here. So it just makes sure that we've got good data integrity in the system. So that's business controls. You've also got page layouts. So what do your end users want to see, and do they all want to see the same information? So in our expense system, for example, the finance admin wants to see all those tax codes and all those things that she's going to use, but the end users don't need to see that. So hide stuff from them using the page layouts. And then you've got record types as well. So you can have different types of record transaction, which means you don't have to create multiple objects. You can just do everything in one object, but it looks like something completely different, but it's not. It's all just one object. So that's pretty cool too. And then you have adopt, which is probably the question I get asked about the most. How do you get your users to adopt the system? And really, it's for me, it's Salesforce and control together. So it's delivering process to the end users, but it's making a system for them in Salesforce, which is really simple to use. And as I say, we've got one system, so everything's built together and everything's there and available for them. So scope, Nimbus Control, which is our process mapping, Deliver, Force.com and CRM, and currently we're just, has anyone heard of Financial Force? If you haven't heard of Financial Force, there is some time left before this Dreamforce closes down. Go and find them in the expo. They are the first Force.com application for finance, and we're rolling out with them in April, which will give us an ERP. And I can't remember the name of the company that does the countertops. He was talking about in the keynote yesterday. He's doing the same thing. So yeah, go and check them out. Vitala or something? Oh yeah, that's them. And then adopt, and it's just basically it's an awesome combination of process and application. Force.com, Salesforce CRM, and Nimbus Control in the process. So I'm going to talk to you in a little bit more detail around job numbers and what they are. A job number for us provides a costing. So at the moment we have our sector targets. We've got our consultants and sales broken into sectors. And it's a little bit controversial, but we don't actually schedule them. And I haven't heard any gasps yet, but I did gasp when I heard this is going to happen. But it works. And basically they schedule themselves. So they manage their own time. So they're responsible for putting timesheets in, and then we bill against the timesheets that they enter. But we wanted to know, as I was saying earlier, where the free stuff is, and we wanted to know where they're spending their time. So we use job numbers to capture all of that information. And eventually we will start to roll out targets against P&L. So it's what profit they're making against their sector will relate to their target, whereas at the moment it's literally just a target number of complete sales. So the job number relates to a timesheet, a services opportunity, project, campaign, or an account plan. So if I take account plan, for example, we can look at a customer account plan and see how much money we spent in expenses, purchasing, how much time we spent for free, how much software we've given for free. So we can start to see actually what was the cost of sale here. Was it worth the £25,000 purchase order? Was it worth spending 10 grand? And what can we learn from that? So it's really helping to make better decisions, but also giving, again, transparency. And because we've given them such control of their sector, they kind of manage a business unit. And by giving them this information, they can manage that much better. So the job numbers took about 2 weeks to scope, about 4 hours to build, and a day to adopt. So it's not hard. I think, again, the adopt thing, although it's one day, I mean, that's really how quickly we said to them, right, this is what you're going to do. Here's the process, here's some training, this is how you do it, some validation rules that mean you can't screw it up. But really, adoption is a continual thing. You have to keep going at it, you have to keep reviewing it, and that's where the audits and that kind of thing come in. So it really helps to understand if we've got problems in the business. So adoption is something that's just constant battle, constantly thinking of new ways of getting adoption. So what are we going to do next? Well, we're just about to launch the customer experience. We're going to put some customer values together. We already have employee values, which we all hold and think about pretty much on a daily basis, mainly because one says seek forgiveness, not permission. So we always say that to ourselves when we screw up somewhere. But we're going to have some customer experience values to make sure that we've got a consistent approach, especially because we're a franchise. We have got franchises all around the globe, and because we've got so many consultants going out, and every personality is different, so we need to have some kind of brand that sort of follows through. Scheduled billing, this will come out of Financial Force. So if you've got a big fat purchase order for services, you're not going to build a whole lot to start with. You want to be able to break that down. So Financial Force allows us to do deferred revenue billing, which for our CFO is awesome because we currently use Sage Line 50, which is a very small accounting package. And he has to do all of that manually. So this is going to just switch it on straight away. And knowledge management, because we have a software product, our consultants have issues and our customers have sometimes the same issues. So we do use solutions, but the knowledge management application is much more advanced, and we can start to produce knowledge around internal issues. So we can put knowledge on there about if they've got a problem with Salesforce to really help them use the application better. But we can also put knowledge on there about our product as well, so they can find solutions themselves without burdening support desk as well. Collecting your air miles. So I'm going to start with the second point. 15 new operational platforms at zero cost. So that's pretty amazing to deliver in the last year 15 new apps, but no overhead, not one penny spent. I don't think any other company could do that without Salesforce. I don't see how that's possible. And then zero overhead with 15 new applications that need managing and maintaining, but we haven't had to increase overhead. And it hasn't been that we've supersaturated them work-wise. It's just the applications have made things so much easier for them that we don't have to recruit, which has been so important because of the economic downturn. We don't want to increase headcount. We want to make sure that we can maintain our business as small as possible. The expenses, Adrian asked me to deliver him a system for transparency, and we reduced our expense cost by 30%, which is exactly what we wanted to do. And self-training, our induction went from 6 weeks to 2 weeks because we don't deliver everything in 1 week and just overload them with information. We make sure that we have process and application working together so they can find information as and when they need it. And then one Nimbus, one strategy, one platform, and that's our vision for the business. And everyone's bought into it, everyone believes in it, so that's pretty cool. So I'm going to do a bit of a demo now of our HR app, just to prove what I've talked about. I'm not making it up. So this is the landing page for our process application control. I've got quite a lot of work to do when I get back. I've got some authorizations, some reviews, and some change requests, 17 change requests, which is quite a lot. But they're my to-dos around process. And then I've got my favorite processes. So improved business excellence is my main process area. I've got my favorite documents. Control has a document management application as well, so it's version controlled. And we use it for all of our quality assured documents, so anything around process and policy. And then storyboards, which are kind of like training boards. So in process, you've got end-to-end, but you don't always want to see every single step, so it takes you through the relevant steps in the process. So this is sitting in Salesforce, because you'll recognize the tabs at the top. And it's really simple. It's an iframe, a URL, linked into a new custom tab, and it takes about 3 minutes to do something like that. So I'm going to show you an employee record for Mark. So some information the employees can edit themselves, so their address, home address, their mobile, so they can keep information up to date. And then other information is locked down, like we can't actually see salaries on here, but salaries are locked down, what their job title is, it's HR that has to manage that information. And then under here, you've got expenses, absence recording. I actually use it to test some stuff, so that's why there's so much stuff in here. I test on Mark. Employee training, so all of the employees' training is logged, so any planned training, any executed training is all kept in here. And what we've done before when employees leave us, because it's never anything, never unhappy when people leave us, it's, you know, they're moving on to better things, we actually print out their training profile to give with them to take away, because they've delivered so much training, so they can show it when with their new jobs and keep a record of it, which has been quite nice. Timesheets are managed from here, although you have got a tab as well that you can manage timesheets. If you go into your employee record, it pre-populates with your employee name, and it means you can capture all the information in one place. So our employees pretty much log in here and look at this stuff every day. Reviews, objectives. If there was any feedback, it would be linked to here, so positive feedback, and unfortunately negative feedback as well, it does happen. Observations from audits. Their IT account, so links into the CMDB so they can see what IT assets they have, and if they wanted to make changes to any of their IT assets or request software or something like that, all done through there. So for the line manager as well to have all of this information, and for the employee to have all of this information, reviews are quite a nice thing to do, and you know more about your employee than you would have done without any of this stuff, especially for the services area, because they're always out on the field, so do you always know what's going on? Are you always aware? And because everything's captured in here, the line manager can read up and see what's happened and find out how they're getting on before they do their reviews. No, we haven't. We've kept the user thing very much around admin, so around maintaining the system rather than any of the front end stuff. So it's completely built. It's a new application, new object. Pardon? No, we don't actually. The users don't actually have anything. They don't really know about their user account. They don't really know that they even have one, I don't think. We keep it very back office. I'll just show you quickly a screenshot of process in Salesforce. So this is my audit application, and the process is actually embedded in Salesforce. So before you create an audit, before you do an audit, you can see the steps that you have to go through in order to deliver an audit. And from the process, you can actually launch record transactions. So you can have the process running, and you can also have the transaction at the same time, so you know exactly what you're doing. The other thing that we do is we override help for this page. So up here, you've got this help for this page, and you can override it. Currently, I override them with S controls. And I just build some simple HTML, but it's got FAQs, it tells them about the application, and it links them back to process and to documents in control. So they have information at their fingertips when they need it, which is why we've managed to reduce the induction down to 2 weeks. And that's really simple to do as well. And if you currently launch that without overriding, it launches the Salesforce help, which for end users, they don't really, it's not about help with Salesforce, it's actually about help with the application you've built. So it's a pretty neat tip there. So how are we doing on time? Yeah, we're all right. So I've got time for questions. Yeah, it's really basic. We've kept it simple, which I think, again, is another good tip. Keep it simple and then build it out as you need to. And for us, all we want to know is how much time they spend with a customer. So the top bit's literally just the employee name and the timesheet number and the week commencing. And then the totals for the week are a calculation of a roll-up calculation from the child object time delivered. And then total hours for week is a formula, and total perceived overtime, again, is just a simple formula. So if they wanted to add new time delivered, they'd sign it to the job. So if it was an account plan, for example, if I put Nestle in there, time delivered, I think it's in hours, which day of the week, and just details. And they can just save a new, okay, so there's lots of Nestle accounts there, so I just have to pick the right one. And then it just populates straight in, timesheets in there, name. So off the back of that, if I assign time against a job number which was an opportunity, a services opportunity, then the invoicing department can go to the services opportunities and see all the time that's been delivered against at the end of a period. So instead of chasing consultants and going, can I have your timesheets? Or, you know, I haven't had any scheduled work for you, can you tell me what your schedule's been? It's all in there, and they can just do it each period. It's just easy. Any other? No, not yet. Sales have got mobile, but I haven't done it for consulting. But I will. Definitely will, because it's, why not? It's easy. Technical consultants do. When we do an installation, they have to put an installation record in to the system, and we have to log if there was any issues or anything went wrong. And at the end of it, a certificate is formulated and it gets emailed through Salesforce. So our technical consultants, they complete the installation details in Salesforce, and then by the time they've saved it, the customer's already got the certificate to say that it's been a successful install, which is just like straight, so easy. Yeah, just an email template, yeah. I find they're a little bit quirky, and I find the best way to do it is do it in Excel, so you've got all the cells and everything matches, copy it into Word, and then copy it into Salesforce. I know it's a bit of a quirky way to do it, but it always comes out perfectly. And you can build it in HTML too, but I just cheat and just copy it across.
You mentioned expenses earlier with the module and you're a global company. That wasn't put together just was it?
No, that was a bit longer. But do you know, the process was what took the longest time, rather than building the system. So it was the scoping part that took the time to understand exactly what they wanted. But there's quite a few complex formulas at the back of the expenses to calculate different taxes depending on the employee region, depending on what the item is, because some things are taxable, some things aren't. We can't claim tax back in America, for example, so we don't want any tax on there, so you have to make sure you're deducting tax from the final cost. So there's some complicated stuff in the background, which was a bit of trial and error to make sure it was all working. But once it's done, I mean, the finance admin, she literally just prints out and uploads. And she used to take a good 2 weeks to do all of the expenses before, and now she just checks them against policy mainly to make sure nobody's buying Haribo instead of, you know, proper dinners and stuff. So she checks against policy, and then she just uploads it, and it's done. Anything else? Yeah.
All this data that you're capturing now across the organisation, how's that impacting management and how they can sort of look at, you know, dashboards and
Yeah.
sort of see how things are going? Because you said before everybody schedules their own time, so I guess they couldn't have had much visibility in the past. Have you set up
Yeah.
nice dashboards for you?
Yeah, they have got dashboards. They're pretty smug, to be honest. It's difficult because we've got such different personalities from our sales director to our COO, which is important, but the sales director very much allows the sectors to just kind of do what they want and trust them, and likes to see the profits, but he's not too worried about how they're getting to that point. Whereas for me and the COO, it's like, okay, we do actually need better transparency. So it means that we have to work really carefully with them to make sure that it works for everybody. But the management side of the business, I mean, now they have got complete control and understanding and transparency, and they have got dashboards, and we don't have to do board reports every month, you know, that take weeks. Everything's on the dashboard. They just print the dashboard out and take it to the board meeting, which is, you know, they love it. The workflow, yeah. Yeah, I'll show you the workflow. So in the setup, Oh, I'm not logged in as admin. Hold on, I'll just log in as admin. No. Oh. I think that's right. Yeah. So under the create, you've got workflows and approvals. And workflows, you can do a couple of things. You could do an email workflow, so it pings out an email. We've got loads of examples of that. When we register opportunities, if there's a partner assigned to the opportunity, when the partner's selected and the opportunity is saved, it sends the email to a partner to say this opportunity's been registered, so they know that they can get their percentage against the opportunity. And again, before, the partner coordinator would spend a good week telling everybody what their opportunity registration is, and now they just get an email straight away from a workflow. The field updates I use quite a lot as well. I actually learned something new from another Force.com hero, and she uses the workflow to update a record type to lock down fields when she doesn't want. And I was like, that's so neat, and I never thought about it. So you can use them for all sorts of different things. As I said, I think I've got about 100 workflows at the moment. Do I tie the workflow into the process? No, I don't, because the process is very much about the users. It's not sort of the IT build side. So we don't use the process. If it spits something out the end that the end user needs to know about, or if they wanted to change something, then we put that in the process. But we don't sort of do the workflow process. You know, you can switch to beta and see the work. Have you done that? Yeah. We don't sort of map any of that. But you could. I mean, you could quite easily then link that into the process for IT to be able to see, because you could shut down visibility to the end user. So you could have that connectivity there if you wanted to. Yes.
You mentioned portals, and I'm wondering if you've given any thought to collaborating with your clients and having extranets and sharing.
Yeah. We've got some innovative consultants that have an array of skills, and they've actually gone and built a what's it called? SharePoint. Sorry, a SharePoint portal thing, and they build a system, and then somebody's like, right, someone needs to manage the system. Lucy, you're going to manage it. And I'm writing the user guide at the moment, and it's so complicated. And seeing some of the new stuff, like I say, with the chatter and things like that, I'm just going to rebuild it in Salesforce. I'm just going to get rid of it. But if I build it in Salesforce, it means that our key customers that have the customer portal will actually be able to access the same stuff. So they will have access to the project information as well, which is going to be pretty cool. It means that the customers will be able to see when their purchase orders are running out, or potentially request some consulting against an open purchase order. They'll be able to look at the project information, the documentation, which will be awesome. But I first need to get rid of SharePoint, which I don't think will be hard. Yeah. We don't actually use the content at the moment, but I probably will start using it now it's free. But we've got a document management strategy, and we've got lots of places where documents could be, but all of our policy, templates, user guides, anything that's related to process is in Control, the process management system. So it's all version controlled, it's got an owner and author, it's got change management, logging history, it's completely validated, but then content is currently held on the website. So there is a few places where it could be, but that document stuff is specifically around process. Because Control is has a web front end, you can just connect. I mean, Salesforce being web as well, you can just connect it pretty much anywhere, and it just launches. If you click on the document from Salesforce, it just launches the document up for you in, I don't know, whatever it is, PDF or Word or Excel. It just launches it there and then. Yes.
Do you use Salesforce together leads from consultants like their job, and how do you use it? How do you
Yeah, we do web to lead. So we've got a number of propositions, collateral on the website, and if you download it, then you automatically have a lead generated. And consultants can also enter leads as well. They do it directly in Salesforce, but there's quite a big process around lead management because we've got the vertical sectors. So there's quite a big sort of clean up before it gets sent off. So. Do you know, it's interesting, yeah, because when you speak to our execs, they're quite blue sky thinking. They're quite in the cloud, shall I say, sometimes. And they'll say something like, "We're not lead driven, so we don't run business from leads. So we're not all about making sure we've got leads. And our sales model is value create, so it's a long sales cycle. So we don't see as much back from leads, really. So we could manage it better, without question. I think everything we could manage better, but to get them to, we're not value add yet. So for us, leads are just not quite important enough. Oh, yes. They actually have training on that. So some of our sectors call them delivery managers as opposed to consultants, but some sectors consultant is much more traditional and it works better in that sector. So again, because they're a business unit, they do things very differently. But yeah, they're encouraged to find out, because they're trusted. They're in there, they're consulting, and they find out a lot more information than sales would. So it's the soft approach. So they are encouraged. And everybody in the sector is on the same target, and they all get bonuses based on their groups. So it benefits them to deliver opportunity through the client as well. We done? Yep. Thank you.